I think it's really hard to imagine a country that doesn't have food, right?
Yeah.
Americans think poor countries are like Mexico or a southern state that the roads are really bad. They don't
Yeah.
understand sort of the deprivation in DPRK or in North Korea.
Yeah, I think it's the only place that modernity hasn't touched. Right, their lifestyle is still like in the 15th or 16th century in the dark age. You can imagine you don't have benefit of technology, you don't have electricity, I mean, you don't have transportation. 90-70% North Korean roads are not paved. The only paved roads are in Pyongyang, in the capital.
Hmm.
I never even see the crosswalks because we didn't have cars.
Yeah.
So fastest transportation people have is like ox cart
Hmm.
or bicycle if you are really rich in the city.
Wow. So I've seen cars in North Korea because I went there a few times for journalism
Yeah.
purposes and sort of tour purposes,
Mm.
which is a whole other question of like the ethics of giving money to a horrible regime. And we can get down that road later. But the the amount of cars you see in all of North Korea is like the amount of cars in a normal suburban neighborhood in the United States, pretty
Yeah,
much.
but I'm sure you were only going through the highways that only tourists can go to,
Yeah.
where to Wonsan or the
Hmm.
DMZ from Pyongyang, right?
Yeah. I mean,
That's
we did go to the country a little bit.
oh, where did you
Well,
go?
it's hard to say because we didn't
Oh,
really know. We would do things like once when we were there, there was it was during this like 100 years celebration. That was probably 2013 or something, and a lot of the roads were closed because
yeah.
for whatever reason, probably they were flooded, I think.
Yeah.
And we went into the country, and what we would do is if we saw something interesting, a bunch of us would say, "Oh, I have to go to the bathroom," or "I feel sick," and the bus would stop, and we would
Yeah.
all get out and use the bathroom on the side of the road, but we would really just be looking around.
Yeah. Oh,
So
what a good tactic that
it was
is.
pretty good. Yeah. They
Wow.
definitely caught on after a while, and they're like, "If you
Uh,
guys wanna see something, just ask, but no photos." And we were
no
like, "Oh, they know."
photos. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's smart.
They know, yeah. So, we saw some country houses where the doors are, like, probably up to my nose, and you have to duck to get in because the house is 100 years old or whatever.
Or like, I mean, in North Korea, in the countryside, it's hard to see the windows. We
Mhm.
don't have windows.
Oh,
The
yeah.
best we can do is put some like plastic bags on it if it's freezing cold in winter.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of glass. So did you grow up then in the country?
No, I was growing up in a city called Haesan. It is one of the bigger cities and also it's a border town.
Mhm.
So North Korea does everything they could to put up the show on the border, so other side of countries don't judge them. But even that is like unheard of standard of living. And I was grew up in the middle later when my father got arrested.
The idea of putting on a show for the world, what you're saying is it makes a lot of sense. From Dandong in China, you could look
Mm.
over I think the Tumen River, right? And
Chinese, yeah,
you see like a Ferris wheel
yeah,
and colorful houses,
yeah.
but it's very clear when you use zoom lenses on cameras that they're rusted and they haven't been used in ever,
Yeah, they
right?
have this other village in DMG too.
Mhm.
It's a show village, like ghost village, where nobody's inside. There's lights never come on.
Yeah, Panmunjom, is that right?
Panmunjom, yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a village too. So North Korea does really good at showing, I mean, pretending and manipulate the narrative.
Pyongyang is also like that. The stores, they put all the products in the front window, but then if you notice after a while, it's always the same product and it's always one in each row. But after
Wow.
you see like 50 stores with
Yeah.
one bottle of soju and it's
Yeah.
always the same, you kind of figure out that nobody's actually buying anything.
No, no, we can afford to buy in the stores in general.
Mhm.
But even in Pyongyang, so this is funny. When there's a bus of like foreign tourists passing by, then they let that town know 2 hours before. So turn on the like electricity. And then they give
Wow.
them a call when they pass, like, okay, turn on the electricity.
That's wild.
I know. And then actually before you guys come, I was in Pyongyang sometime with my father. They call like self-reliant. So they ask us to buy the paints and go paint the roads and maintain the whole thing for free for the regime. That's the
Really?
thing how you see, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So all
That's
the paints, everything you see is like people do it with their own money.
That is so so that's the Juche philosophy, right?
Self-reliance,
Yeah,
right?
like we don't need anyone's help. We can do it all on our own,
But
except we can't.
like that's a slavery. This time North Korea just had a military parade. In order to be participant in the parade, they demand is an order that you have to practice more than 9 to 6 months of a year without getting paid. They don't feed you, and you even pay for your own uniform and shoes and everything gear. It's beyond. It's like beyond exploitation.
Right, especially because it's not like you're getting you're busy trying to literally find food and you're, as you mentioned in your book, you're finding bark and cooking insects to survive. And they're like, by the way, focus on being really good in this marching band or whatever. And you're
Yeah,
like, are you kidding me right now?
yeah.
Right?
But it is not in our thoughts. We can like say no to it,
Right.
and that's how they became like Almighty God.
It's funny you should mention the regime leaders being God. When I on one of the trips, one of the women that I was with, she brought her baby. They were from like Denmark or something. And it was a toddler, probably 3 years old. And he pointed to a big picture. Of course, there's these huge photos or paintings of Kim Il Sung and Kim Jong Il on buildings. And he said, "Is that mommy? Is that God?"
Oh,
Because the propaganda works at such a deep level that
yeah,
even this toddler was like, "Oh, that person must be really important because he's
yeah,
everywhere. It must be God." And
yeah,
the mother was like, "No, but also don't say anything because this is like tread lightly."
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, like in North Korea, we don't have advertisement. All we got is the monuments and statues of Kims. So we don't have the billboards saying like, "Look at this show, look at this." None of that. I never even knew the word advertisement. When I got out, that's when I heard like what advertisement was. In North Korea, they don't do that.
What do you think of the commercialism in the West, in the United States, where we have ads on, like this podcast has ads. There's ads on the bus that you ride. There's ads on the outside of the bus. There's ads that pop up when you're using an app. It's a bit much, right?
Well, I would rather live in a country there's ads.
Ads and freedom and food versus no ads and no freedom.
Yeah,
Okay, fine. That
yes.
is obvious. But I just wonder if it's jarring coming from a place where you'd never seen an advertisement to being bombarded with it constantly.
No, I mean like everything has a cost. There's a
Hmm.
trade-off, and nothing is free. And people, the problem now in the West too. Now people think there's things are free, but nothing is free. And like when you go on Spotify or podcast or YouTube, you watch free videos. Why do you watch? Because someone paid the work for it. So seeing ads is like, of course you have to watch it. But I think once you understand that, you're just gonna stop complaining.
Yeah.
And I think once I understood, it's like, okay, it makes sense, right? And I think in North Korea, the biggest problem is that everything seems like everything is free. Free healthcare, free education, and turns out nothing is free.
Yeah, yeah, that's certainly the case. I saw a hospital when I was there just as a tour, and it was grim. It was gross. And that was the hospital they were willing to show us. Imagine what the hospital that everyone goes to
Yeah,
looks like. There was no patients there. So you knew that was like for show only.
yeah,
Equipment from the 80s, stains on things, no bustle. You know, in a hospital here, it's busy. There
yeah.
it was like they just opened it so we could look in there, and there was probably nobody even working in there.
I mean, the country where even Haesan in the one of the major cities, in the hospital, they ask us to bring us our own needles. But if you cannot afford a needle, right, we are very poor. They
Mhm.
use one needle to inject everybody.
Oh gosh.
And we don't have actually drops. So they use a beer bottle from the trash and they use that as a drop.
As like an IV?
IV,
So you're getting
yeah,
an IV
from the beer
from an
bottle.
empty beer bottle.
Yeah, and also people don't have beds. We don't have the sanitary pads or any of that. So you just rip up your clothes or anything you can find and like make sure that you don't bleed. And that's how we are like free healthcare looks like.
Right.
And in the operations in North Korea, they don't give you anesthesia. I removed my appendix without anesthesia. And in North Korea, it's very common to have a surgery without painkiller.
Oh my gosh.
So this is like what free healthcare does to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've had a child here in the United States.
Mm,
Was the appendix surgery more painful than giving birth?
of course.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Has to be, right?
Right, there was no. I think they gave me some painkiller because my mom bribed them,
Mhm.
but it was a very weak one. It was not real like anesthesia for
Right. Yeah,
surgery.
you got, like, a headache medicine or
Some
something.
like something like that.
Sorry, I don't mean to
So
laugh, it's
no.
horrible.
I mean, now I'm thinking about it. It is kind of funny in 21st century you go something like that, right?
Yeah. You must be really tough, though.
I mean, like you, if the pain is too much, you lose your conscious, and then you come back, lose it, and come back, and it's just. But like in North Korea, that's why they use crystal meth and opium as a cold medicine.
As a cold medicine,
Yeah,
does it work?
it does help
Have you tried
temper.
it?
I haven't,
Oh, okay.
but all my friends became drug addict.
Oh,
So
really?
that's how the regime makes money, right? They
Mhm.
sell the missiles, nukes to Syria, Iran, other countries, and they sell their people, and one of them is selling those drugs, crystal meth and opium.
Have you seen The Mole?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was on the show as well,
Oh,
Ulrich.
yeah, it's amazing.
He is really, like a crazy brave guy.
Yeah,
Um,
so brave.
for people who haven't seen that, I'll list the episode in the show notes, but this guy
Mm,
went undercover talking with North Korean arms dealers in China and in other countries about selling drugs, missiles, and things like that to countries like Syria, Iran.
yeah.
So
All
it's
the Middle Eastern countries, they
mhm.
buy missiles from North Korea.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Mhm.
how they generate hard currency for the regime.